Chosen one, they thought they understood you, but they never saw what was happening behind the silence. And this is why you need to be careful, because sometimes, when you finally realize that you were right about something, the greatest danger is not being wrong. The greatest danger is allowing the truth to turn you bitter. You have lived through moments that made you question yourself. You watched people misunderstand your intentions. You saw situations unfold in ways that confirmed what your heart had quietly sensed. You were told you were thinking too much. You were told to let it go. You were made to feel like your instincts were foolish, but deep inside, you knew something was not right. You did not always have proof. You did not always have the words. But you noticed. You observed. You remembered. And while everyone else was reacting to what was happening on the surface, you were paying attention to what was happening underneath. They underestimated you. They mistook your silence for weakness. They confused your patience with fear. They saw your kindness and thought you were easy to deceive. They saw you step away and assumed you had been defeated. But they did not understand you. Your silence was not weakness. Your silence was restraint. You learned that you do not have to respond to every accusation. You do not have to explain every decision. You do not have to reveal every thought inside your mind. Sometimes the strongest person in the room is the one who refuses to lose control. You could have reacted. You could have exposed everything you knew. You could have answered anger with anger. But something inside you told you to wait, and perhaps that waiting was not meaningless. Perhaps one God was teaching you something through the delay, because divine timing does not always feel like progress. Sometimes divine timing looks like waiting. Sometimes it looks like a closed door. Sometimes it looks like losing something you thought you desperately needed. And sometimes it looks like being separated from people you believed would remain in your life forever. You were not forgotten. You were being shaped by experiences you did not yet understand. Your delay was not your ending. It was a chapter, and perhaps the greatest lesson was not discovering that you were right. Perhaps the greatest lesson was learning what to do with that knowledge. Because being right does not give you permission to become cruel. Being hurt does not give you permission to become hateful. Being betrayed does not mean you must spend your life seeking revenge. Justice does not require revenge. Let that sentence settle inside you. Justice does not require revenge. You do not need to destroy someone to prove that they treated you unfairly. You do not need to chase people for apologies. You do not need to force anyone to understand your value. Truth reveals itself, sometimes slowly, sometimes through consequences, sometimes through time, and sometimes through the simple transformation of the person who was once wounded. That is where your awakening begins. You stop asking, "Why don't they understand me?" And you begin asking, "What is one God teaching me through this?" You stop chasing approval. You stop begging people to recognize your heart. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. And you begin building something deeper. Character, discipline, wisdom, patience, faith, moral strength. This is what it means to carry the symbolic identity of a chosen one. Not that you are better than anyone else, not that you are above other human beings, but that you are willing to accept a greater responsibility for the person you are becoming. A chosen one does not need an audience to become strong. A chosen one does not need revenge to feel powerful. A chosen one learns to walk away without becoming empty inside. You may have spent years wondering why your journey looked different, Why certain doors closed, why certain relationships ended, why your path became lonely, why you had to learn lessons that others seemed to avoid. But perhaps your journey was never about having an easy life. Perhaps it was about developing the wisdom to handle the life you were given. And now you are beginning to see differently. The things that once broke your heart taught you discernment. The disappointments taught you patience. The betrayal taught you boundaries. The loneliness taught you how to stand without applause. The uncertainty taught you to depend more deeply on one God. And the moments when you felt completely lost may have been the moments when you were being redirected. So, be careful, chosen one. If you discover that you were right, do not let your ego become louder than your wisdom. If someone finally recognizes what they failed to see, remain humble. If truth comes to light, remain calm. If justice unfolds, do not celebrate another person's pain. You have suffered enough. You do not need to become the source of suffering for someone else. Your victory is not watching another person fall. Your victory is realizing that you no longer need them to validate you. They underestimated you. Let them. Your silence was not weakness. Your patience was not stupidity. Your withdrawal was not defeat. You were learning. You were observing. You were becoming. And now your greatest responsibility is to protect the peace that you fought so hard to find. Do not return to the version of yourself that needed everyone to understand. Do not reopen doors simply because someone finally knocks. Do not abandon your values just because you finally have the opportunity to prove a point. Remember who you are becoming. Your legacy is being built, not through revenge, not through arguments, not through proving everyone wrong, but through the quiet decisions nobody applauds, the discipline you maintain when nobody is watching, the patience you practice when nothing seems to be changing, the courage you show when fear tells you to quit, the humility you keep when people finally notice your strength, and the trust you place in one God when you cannot see the entire path. Chosen one. Maybe you were never supposed to understand everything at once. Maybe some answers needed time. Maybe some truths needed distance. Maybe some doors had to close before you could recognize the door that was meant for you. So breathe. Do not rush. Do not chase. Do not destroy yourself trying to prove what you already know in your heart. Walk with patience. Walk with wisdom. Walk with dignity. Let time reveal what you cannot reveal yourself. Let truth speak where arguments cannot. Let justice unfold without poisoning your soul. And remember this, when the old pain tries to return, you were not forgotten. Your delay was not your ending. Truth reveals itself. Justice does not require revenge. Your silence was not weakness, and your legacy is being built. One patient, courageous, disciplined step at a time. One day, you may look back at everything that confused you and realize that every delay taught you patience, every disappointment taught you wisdom, and every difficult season pushed you closer to the person you were meant to become. You do not need everyone to understand your journey. You only need the courage to keep walking it. Because when destiny is guided by patience, when strength is guided by wisdom, and when your heart remains connected to one God, even the chapters you once called painful can become the foundation of the life you were always meant to build. And now, chosen one, this is where the story becomes deeper. Because being right was never the final lesson. The final lesson was learning not to lose yourself after discovering the truth. There is a strange moment that comes after disappointment, a moment when everything begins to make sense. You replay conversations in your mind. You remember the small details you ignored, the words that did not match the actions, the promises that never became reality, the moments when something inside you whispered, "Pay attention," and suddenly you realize you were not imagining everything. You were not foolish for noticing. You were not weak for feeling that something had changed. But be careful, because when your eyes finally open, anger can try to walk through the same door. It can whisper, "I told you so." It can make you want to expose everyone. It can make you want to return to old situations just to prove that you were right. Do not fall into that trap. Your awakening is supposed to make you wiser, not more bitter. Your pain was never meant to become your personality. Your betrayal was never meant to become your identity. And your past was never meant to become the prison of your future. Chosen one, you have already survived the part that nobody saw. You survived the nights when you questioned your own judgment. You survived the moments when you wanted an explanation, but received silence. You survived being misunderstood by people whose approval once mattered to you. You survived walking away without knowing whether you were making the right decision. And perhaps that is why you are different now. You do not react the same way. You think before you speak. You observe before you trust. You listen to actions more than words. You have learned that not every smile represents loyalty, and not every distance represents hatred. Sometimes people simply belong to different chapters. And when a chapter ends, you do not have to keep rereading the same page. Close it, learn from it, and continue, because one God knows what you cannot see. You may only see the door that closed, but divine wisdom sees the road beyond it. You may only see the person who left, but divine timing knows what their absence may teach you. You may only see the delay, but perhaps there is preparation happening in the silence. Not every unanswered question needs an immediate answer. Not every mystery needs to be solved today. Sometimes patience is the answer before the answer arrives. And this is where your strength becomes dangerous to the old version of you, because you are no longer desperate. You are no longer begging people to stay. You are no longer forcing conversations that have already died. You are no longer explaining your heart to people who only listen when it benefits them. You have reached a place where peace matters more than being understood. That is growth. That is awakening. That is strength. But remember, do not confuse peace with passivity. You can be peaceful and still have boundaries. You can forgive and still walk away. You can love someone and still refuse to return to what destroyed your peace. You can wish someone well without giving them access to you again. This is wisdom, and wisdom does not always look dramatic. Sometimes wisdom looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like saying no. Sometimes it looks like leaving without slamming the door. Sometimes it looks like choosing not to answer the message that would pull you back into an old cycle. You do not have to win every argument. You do not have to correct every misunderstanding. You do not have to defend your character before everyone. Let your life speak. Let your consistency speak. Let your transformation speak. Because eventually, people may understand what your words could never explain. They may recognize your strength after watching you remain standing. They may understand your patience after seeing where that patience carried you. They may realize that the person they underestimated was never trying to compete with them. You were simply trying to survive, heal, grow, and become better. And now, you are becoming someone who no longer needs revenge because you have something greater to protect. Your future. your peace, your purpose, your relationship with one God. This is the hidden truth. Sometimes the greatest justice is not watching another person receive consequences. Sometimes the greatest justice is realizing that they no longer control your emotions. They can speak. You remain calm. They can misunderstand. You remain focused. They can doubt. You keep building. They can walk away. You keep walking. That is power. Real power is not loud. Real power does not need to announce itself. It does not need applause. It does not need witnesses. It simply continues. And chosen one, you are continuing after everything. You are still here, still learning, still becoming, still believing that your story has meaning. That alone should remind you of how much strength has already been placed inside you. But now comes another test. Can you remain humble when you finally rise? Can you remain kind without becoming naive? Can you remain strong without becoming hard? Can you protect yourself without closing your heart completely? Can you succeed without becoming arrogant? Can you be right without needing to humiliate someone who was wrong? That is the real test. Because destiny is not only about where you are going, it is also about who you become while getting there. And perhaps this is why your journey required so much patience. You were not only waiting for circumstances to change, you were being changed from within. Your mind became stronger. Your boundaries became clearer. Your vision became sharper. Your dependence on approval became weaker. And your understanding of divine timing became deeper. So if today you feel like you are standing between the person you used to be and the person you are becoming, do not be afraid of that space. It is uncomfortable because transformation is uncomfortable. You are leaving behind old habits, old fears, old attachments, old versions of yourself that were built around survival. You are learning how to live from wisdom instead. And perhaps that is why some things no longer feel right, some conversations no longer satisfy you, some environments no longer feel like home, some relationships no longer match the person you are becoming. Do not automatically interpret that as loss. Sometimes it is alignment. Sometimes growth changes what you are willing to tolerate. And sometimes the silence around you is not emptiness, it is preparation. Chosen one, you were never required to understand the entire journey. You were only required to take the next honest step. So take it slowly, faithfully, without rushing destiny, without forcing doors, without chasing people, without becoming obsessed with proving that you were right. Because one of the most powerful things you can ever say is not, "I told you so." It is, "I learned," and then you keep walking, you keep becoming, you keep trusting the wisdom of one God. Because your story is not ending where people misunderstood you. Your story is not ending where you were rejected. Your story is not ending where you were underestimated. That was only part of the journey. And the chapter ahead does not need to be announced. It only needs to be lived. Stay patient, stay disciplined, stay humble, stay courageous. Protect your peace, guard your character, and never forget, they underestimated you. But you do not need to underestimate yourself. You were not forgotten. You were being prepared. Your delay was not your ending. It was teaching you how to walk with patience, and when truth finally reveals itself, let it find you transformed, not bitter, because the greatest proof that you were right will not be someone else's downfall. It will be the person you become after everything that tried to break you. Your legacy is being built, quietly, gently, one decision at a time, and one day, you will understand why you had to walk through the darkness without carrying the darkness inside you, that is when you will know. The journey did not destroy you, it refined you. And now, chosen one, there is one final truth you must understand. Being right is not the destination. Becoming wise because you were right is. Because anyone can become angry when they discover they were betrayed. Anyone can become bitter when they realize they were misunderstood. Anyone can point fingers after the truth becomes obvious. But it takes a different kind of strength to look at everything that happened and say, I will learn from this, but I will not become this. That is the difference between pain and transformation. You have been through moments that could have hardened your heart. You have experienced disappointment that could have made you stop trusting everyone. You have faced silence that could have convinced you that nobody cared. But somehow, you are still searching for meaning. You are still trying to become better. You are still looking toward one God. That means the story is still being written. Chosen one, maybe the greatest revelation is not that you were right about certain people or situations. Maybe the revelation is that you were right to keep going. You were right not to give up. You were right to protect your peace. You were right to listen when something inside you told you to slow down. You were right to stop forcing what was no longer working. You were right to choose growth over revenge. And you were right to believe that your life could become something greater than the pain you experienced. But listen carefully. Do not let the desire to be proven right become another form of attachment. You do not need to wait for someone's confession. You do not need an apology before you can heal. You do not need everyone to admit what they did. Sometimes closure is not something another person gives you. Sometimes closure is something you create through acceptance. You accept what happened. You accept what you cannot change. You learn what the experience was trying to teach you, and then you release it. Not because it did not matter, but because your future matters more. Your future deserves a version of you that is not constantly looking backward. Your purpose deserves your attention. Your peace deserves protection. Your heart deserves room to breathe again. And your relationship with one God deserves to become stronger than your need for human approval. This is where divine wisdom begins to feel different. You stop asking, why did this happen to me? And you begin asking, what can I become because I went through it? That question changes everything. Because pain can either become a prison or a teacher, and you are learning. You are becoming more careful with your energy, more intentional with your words, more selective with your trust, more disciplined with your time, more patient with your journey. You no longer need to move quickly, just because everyone else is moving quickly. You understand something now. A delayed journey can still be a meaningful journey. A slow season can still be a productive season. A quiet chapter can still be preparing you for something important. Your delay was not your ending. Remember that. Your delay was not your ending. And the door that closed was not necessarily proof that you were rejected. Sometimes a closed door simply means you were not meant to stay there forever. You may not understand it today, you may not understand it tomorrow, but you can still choose patience, because one God sees what you cannot see. And when you trust divine timing, you stop trying to force every outcome. You work, you prepare, you pray, you act with wisdom, and then you leave what you cannot control in the hands of one God. That is not weakness. That is surrender without giving up responsibility. You still do your part. You still make wise decisions. You still protect yourself. You still pursue your goals. But you stop trying to control every detail of the road, and that is freedom. Chosen one. There will come a time when you realize that the people who once made you question your worth no longer have the same power over you. Their opinions become smaller. Their absence becomes quieter. Their rejection becomes less painful. Not because you became cold, because you became secure. You finally understand that your worth was never something another person had the authority to give or take away. And when you understand that, you become difficult to manipulate. You no longer chase what constantly runs away from you. You no longer beg for basic respect. You no longer confuse attention with love. You no longer confuse familiarity with loyalty. You begin choosing peace. You begin choosing wisdom. You begin choosing purpose. And that is when your life starts to change from the inside. Not overnight, not magically, but gradually. One decision, one boundary, one lesson, one disciplined morning, one difficult no, one courageous yes, one moment of patience when anger wanted to speak. That is how a new life is built, quickly. And this is why you must be careful now, because when you begin healing, the past may tempt you to return, not necessarily because you belong there, but because it is familiar. Familiar pain can feel safer than unfamiliar growth. Do not confuse familiarity with destiny. You have already learned what you needed to learn from certain chapters. You do not have to return simply because you remember them. Keep moving. There is nothing weak about walking forward. There is nothing arrogant about protecting your peace. There is nothing wrong with becoming selective. And there is nothing wrong with outgrowing an environment that no longer helps you become your best self. You are not here to spend your entire life proving your innocence to people who have already chosen their version of the story. Let them have their version. You live yours with integrity. Let them remember the old you. You build the new you. Let them misunderstand your silence. You know why you became quiet. Let them question your distance. You know why you needed space. Let them underestimate your potential. You do not need to announce what you are becoming. Your actions will speak when the time is right. Truth reveals itself. Always remember that. Truth reveals itself. You may not control when. You may not control how. But you can control who you become while waiting. And that is where your real power lives. Not in controlling others. Not in predicting the future. Not in forcing justice. But in controlling your own character. So when life tests you again, and it will, remember everything you have already survived. You have evidence inside your own story. You have survived days you once thought would destroy you. You have walked through seasons you never thought would end. You have rebuilt pieces of yourself nobody knew were broken. You have learned how to stand again. So stand, not with arrogance, with humility, not with revenge, with wisdom, not with hatred, with boundaries, not with fear, with courage, and not with blind certainty about tomorrow, but with trust in one God and commitment to doing what is right today. Chosen one. You do not need to know every detail of your destiny. You only need to remain faithful to the values that will make you worthy of carrying it. Patience, discipline, humility, courage, wisdom, justice, compassion. These are the things that will outlive temporary victories, because one day people may forget the arguments. They may forget who said what, they may forget who walked away first. But your character will remain, your choices will remain, the person you became will remain. That is your legacy. Your legacy is being built, Not someday, now. In the way you respond to disappointment, in the way you treat people when you have power, in the way you behave when nobody is watching, in the way you keep moving when recognition does not come, and in the way you remain connected to one God even when the road becomes uncertain. So tonight, if you are carrying a truth that nobody else understands, put it down for a moment. You do not have to carry the entire burden alone. Give yourself permission to breathe. Give yourself permission to heal. Give yourself permission to move forward without receiving every answer. You were not forgotten. You were never required to have everything figured out. Your silence was not weakness. Your patience was not wasted. Your delay was not your ending. And your story is not defined by the people who failed to understand you. Your story is defined by what you choose to become after they misunderstood you. So be careful, chosen one. If you are 100% right, let wisdom be louder than pride. If truth is on your side, let patience protect it. If justice belongs in your story, let it unfold without revenge. And if destiny is calling you toward a greater version of yourself, do not keep turning around to convince the past that you have changed. Walk forward, quietly, courageously, faithfully, because one day you will look back and realize the greatest thing you proved was never that they were wrong. It was that everything meant to break you could not stop you from becoming who you were meant to be. And when your journey finally makes sense, you will understand that divine wisdom was working through every delay. Patience was preparing your heart, and destiny was never asking you to rush. It was asking you to become ready. So keep walking, chosen one. Your path may be quiet, your progress may be invisible, your answers may take time, but do not mistake silence for absence. Do not mistake delay for denial. Do not mistake loneliness for abandonment. Keep your heart humble. Keep your mind disciplined. Keep your spirit grounded. Trust one God. And remember, you are not forgotten. Truth reveals itself. Justice does not require revenge. Your legacy is being built. And perhaps the most beautiful part of your destiny is not where the road ends, but who you become while one God teaches you how to walk it. Chosen one. Before you leave this message, take one moment and let everything become quiet. Forget the people who doubted you. Forget the ones who misunderstood you. Forget the moments when you felt invisible, rejected, betrayed, or alone for just a moment. Look at yourself. Look at how far you have come. You are still here after every disappointment, after every unanswered question, after every door that closed, after every season that forced you to become stronger than you thought you could be. You are still here, and that means something. Maybe you were right about what you felt. Maybe you were right to step back. Maybe you were right to protect your peace. But your greatest victory is not proving that you were right. Your greatest victory is refusing to allow what happened to destroy the person you are becoming. They underestimated you. Let them. Your silence was not weakness. Your patience was not wasted. Your delay was not your ending. You were not forgotten. And you do not need to chase anyone for an explanation. Let truth reveal itself. Let time expose what words cannot. Let justice unfold without revenge, because justice does not require revenge. You have a destiny that does not need to be rushed. You have a purpose that does not need everyone's approval, and you have a journey that only one God fully understands. So walk forward with patience, with wisdom, with discipline, with humility. When you do not understand the road, trust divine wisdom. When the answer takes longer than expected, trust divine timing. When people leave, do not assume your life is ending. Sometimes, what leaves your life creates space for what you are becoming, and when you finally reach the place you have been praying, working, and waiting for, do not forget the person who survived the journey. Remember the version of you who kept going when nobody applauded. Remember the nights when you had to encourage yourself. Remember the moments when you wanted to quit but chose another step. That person deserves your respect because your legacy is being built right now. Not through revenge, not through proving people wrong, but through character, through patience, through courage, through the decision to remain good without becoming weak and strong without becoming cruel. So, chosen one, do not be afraid of the silence. Do not be afraid of the delay. Do not be afraid of the unknown. Some of the most important transformations happen where nobody can see them. Keep walking, keep growing, keep learning. Keep your heart connected to one God. And when the world tells you that nothing is changing, remember that roots grow in darkness before anyone sees the tree. Your journey is still unfolding. Your story is still being written. And perhaps one day, you will look back and realize that the moments you thought were delays were actually lessons in patience. The moments you thought were losses were lessons in wisdom, and the moments you thought were endings were simply turning points. So breathe. Release what you cannot control. Forgive what you are ready to release. Protect what deserves protection. And keep moving toward the person you were meant to become. You do not need everyone to understand you. You do not need everyone to believe in you. You do not need everyone to see your vision. You only need the courage to remain faithful to what is right. Because when your heart is guided by wisdom, your steps are strengthened by patience, and your journey remains connected to one God. You cannot measure your destiny by what is happening today. The chapter may be quiet, the road may be long, the answer may still be coming, but the journey is not over. Chosen one, stand tall, stay humble, stay patient, stay disciplined, and never forget. You were not forgotten. Your delay was not your ending. Truth reveals itself. Justice does not require revenge. Your silence was not weakness. Your legacy is being built. And one day, when you finally understand why you had to walk through everything you walked through, you may realize that destiny was never rushing you. It was preparing you. And one God was teaching you that the strongest journey is not the one that happens quickly. It is the one that transforms you completely. Keep walking. Your destiny is ahead. Your wisdom is growing. Your patience has meaning. And your story is far from over.